We are back with another ARC book review, and this time it is an ARC of a book that I cannot believe that I actually got. Was so excited. I actually sat on my couch for like 20 minutes trying to contemplate the fact that I even got this ARC. And it is by two of my absolute favorite romance authors, and that is Eden Finley and Saxon James's new book, Forbidden Puckboy, which does come out on Thursday the 19th. So this book brought the angst and the mutual pining, and it was glorious. So we follow Easton and Knox. Now, Easton is the younger brother of Knox's best friend, Connor. Easton has had a crush on Knox for many, many, many years, but recognizes that probably nothing's ever going to happen because unfortunately Knox looks at him a little bit too much like a younger brother, and also because that close friendship with Connor, and he recognizes that he's never going to do it because of Connor. Now, on the flip side, Knox has actually had a crush on Easton for quite a while, but again, also not going to act on it because of his friendship with Connor. Things kind of start to change a little bit after they go to Vegas for the charity game that the Queer Collective is hosting. And let's just say sparks start to fly a little bit in Vegas. And after a kiss that happens down there, sometimes what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas. So after Vegas is where we really get into like the angst and the pining. They make it back to their state where they live, and they do live next door to each other, and Knox actually lives with Connor. Now, Easton is a hockey player along with Connor. They are both on the same team. If you have read the books, you recognize the Kiki brothers that we've met before. Knox is actually a women's hockey league ref, and his dream is to actually make it to the NHL, to ref a game in the NHL. So this is kind of somewhere where a lot of like the tension and angst kind of goes on between the two of them, is that once they do start this relationship, there's a lot of like, okay, distance, like how do we handle that? How do we handle both of our careers? And how much time is taken by these careers. So that is a part of the piece of the work to get to their happily ever after, but the larger part is Connor. Now, Connor is a very typical older brother. He is the type of older brother that has always felt like he needs to watch out for his younger brothers, feels like he needs to kind of be that like extra parent to them. And we start to see at the beginning of this book and kind of throughout this book that Easton it has been struggling with this for a very long time. He feels like he's always been in Connor's shadow. They're on the same team. They've gone through a lot of the same things together. They're fairly close in age. So Easton is kind of starting to chafe a little bit at all of this, closeness with Connor, being underneath his wing, his shadow, and he really kind of wants to get out of it. So I will say some of this angst does not just come from Easton and Knox and them trying to figure out their happily ever after. It also comes from Connor and him kind of realizing that the way he's been treating his brothers is probably not been the best, and that maybe sometimes he's overstepped boundaries a little bit more. There's a scene in it that absolutely broke my heart. I'm not going to spoil it, but Connor, I think, has some of the best character development in this book. I think you start to see him really realizing he needs to work on himself and not be so overbearing with his brothers. Now, Easton and Knox, they do have a hard-fought happily ever after, and this is one of the things that I really love about Saxon James and Eden Finley and their books, is they're so realistic. There's no, magical fix-all for the way that their relationship is going to go. They have to work for it. And it's not just, we have to work for it because we have, these, relationship things, right? Like, the brother and the family, and how do we handle that? And then also, being in a relationship, how do you, work with the new person? Are you guys compatible? There's also outside influences, their careers. How do we handle this career? Easton is an NHL player. Knox is trying to become an NHL ref. So how do they handle when Knox does become an NHL ref? How do they handle that? He can't really officiate Easton's games. There's travel, time apart. So I always love their books because it's very realistic. It's not a magical fix-all. These characters have to work and really plan and figure out their happily ever after, which I think is extremely realistic. Now, have no fear. I know I said they bring the angst and the pining into this book, but we still get all the great humor that you come to love from these books. We get the Queer Collective, we get all of them kind of butting in, we get them in the very beginning, and we get them in the very end. So don't see as much of them in the middle as we have in other books, but their time that they show up is amazing. I also absolutely loved finally seeing this, charity event that we've kind of been talking about, I feel like, for a couple books now. It finally happens and it's amazing. I really loved, reading that little piece of it. Also, I will always forever love all the hockey pieces that they add to this book. It's in there, not again as much as we've seen in other books, because we are kind of, I feel like, at the beginning of the season. We're going to see more throughout. I think there's another book coming. But don't worry, you still get all the wit and banter and humor that you are used to, just with a lot more, like I said, angst in this book than we've seen in previous ones. So I will say, I feel like every time they release a new Puckboy book, I'm like, this is my favorite. I absolutely love these characters. They're my favorites. I think this one actually really might be my favorite. I have loved all the characters, especially Ezra. Ezra will always have a special place in my heart for me. But there's something about these two characters and their hard fought one happily ever after that just kind of pulls at my heartstrings a little bit. It's a wonderful book. It's lovely. It's brilliant. If you have not stepped toes into Eden Finley and Saxon James's books, especially their Puckboy series, I cannot recommend it enough. I'm a huge fan of their work. Like I said, when I got this arc, I basically had to sit on my couch and really contemplate how this was real life, that I was lucky enough to get one of these. I cannot recommend their books enough. I think they are wonderfully witty, humorous, with really real life, relationship situations that happen, and angst and hurt, comfort. They kind of basically have a little bit of everything for whatever you're looking for. So again, Forbidden Puckboys comes out September 19th, which is Thursday, and I really hope that you love Easton and Knox just as much as I did.